right, welcome back, math friends. So today we're going to do a really quick refresher on decimals and fractions and their relationship. So remember, when we're looking at this again, sorry for all that noise, we're looking at this as a whole unit now. Like this is all the pieces. So if it's all the way filled in, this would be worth 1. If we were to write that as a fraction, you can write it as a fraction two different ways. You can write it as 10 over 10, because it's full of 10 strips, or 100 over 100. And again, if we were to write it as a whole number, or using numbers, not fractions, numbers and decimals, we'd write it as 1.0. Because there's one whole, no tenths. We can even add the other 0 for hundredths. Remember, that's tenths, hundredths. When we're looking at this right here, this is a strip. Remember, sometimes Mr. B will also draw it like just a line to be a little bit more efficient or faster. But if I'm looking at this as a fraction, it's 1 over 10. Or sometimes if you're like some of our friends that you look at it as like how many cents it is, it's also 10 over 100. So notice our fractions are getting smaller. 10 over 10, 1 over 100, 100 over 100, 10 over 100. If you were to write this one as a whole number or a fraction, I'm going to get rid of that so it's not confusing. Well, we have 0 wholes, we have 1/10, and you can also add the 0 for 0 hundredths. When we look at this one right here, now our fraction is just a plain old 1 over 100, because it takes 100 of these to fill up our whole. And if I was going to write that as a fraction, I have 0 wholes, put my decimal there, 0 tenths, and 1/100th. Keep in mind that these two, a lot of you guys when you're doing the work last time, you said that these were equal. Pay attention to where the zeros are. This is tenths or dimes. So we have 1 dime over here, 0 dimes. This is pennies, and this is pennies. So we have 0 pennies, 1 penny. So 1 dime is bigger than 1 penny. All right, why are we reviewing all of this? Because sometimes we are going to have to do something like this. I'm going to show you 2 different things here. Sometimes you might get a fraction that looks like this. You have your whole, and pretend I'm shading it in, but I'm just going to draw it 1, 2, 3, 4. You are going to have 4 lines in here like this, and you need to know what that fraction is. That's the easier one. Well, it's either 4 out of 10 or 40 over 100, because you're just counting the tenths. Remember, we broke it up into 10 pieces, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if I were to break it up into 100 pieces, and you'd count 40. The little bit harder part is the decimals. So when we're writing our decimals, we just got to count how many tenths are there. So I would say 0 wholes, put my decimal, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 tenths. So these two right here are equal. And if I wanted to be more complete, I can say 0 wholes, 4 tenths, put my decimal there, 0 pennies, and these are kind of equal. So 40 hundredths is 40 hundredths, because we always say the last number, 4 tenths, 4 tenths. All right, the last thing, so you'll see equations like that. You might see a whole bunch of like little decimals you have to add up, and you have to write the fraction and the decimal. So you might see that today. The other thing I want to talk about is this thing where, let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, sorry, I'm going to check that. I'm going to go more like this. We're going to go here, I'm drawing our whole, and I have 1 and 2. So if I were to say, what is our fraction for this? A perfect and acceptable answer is 2 tenths. But remember that there's 10 sections in here, and I think I might I'm going to hit pause and draw it all the way out for you guys because it might show up better. 1 second. All right, welcome back. I drew it out in a little bit more detail. So this is our whole, and 2 of the sections are colored in. You can have 2/10. There's this special word that we use with fractions, and you're not going to know how to always do it, but it's called reducing the fraction. And that just means making this part, the denominator, as small as you can, but keeping it equal to this fraction, or an equivalent fraction. And so when we're looking at this, your first answer is going to be, say, 2/10. But remember, just like our eggs, you can break it up into different ways. So 2/10, if I were to break it up into chunks of 2, so like here, when there's 2 there, 1, 2 there, 1, 2, 2 there. So now I have these little, I broke it up, I'm kind of showing you the sections like that. I broke it up into how many different pieces? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 pieces. So if I broke up into 5 and these 2 are all the way colored in, that's the same as 1/5. This is a reduced fraction. It's an equivalent fraction is what we've been calling them, but it's more specifically when you go to the smallest number you can get, it's called a reduced fraction. So when you're out there, when we're doing these things, you might be able to find smaller fractions. Let me show you another one. I'm going to draw this one really quick before we get ready to go. Let's say we have our whole, and I've cut it into 4 pieces. And it's just like so there's 100 in here, and it's just like, think like a quarter. So there's 25 in each piece. So 25, 25, 25, 25. And I have all of these colored in. One fraction you could say is, since we have 25 and there's 100 total in here, we have 25 1/100ths. The reduced or smaller fraction is 1/4. So you guys know these fractions, these small little fractions. It's these bigger ones that use money when it's counting out the cents. So you'll have some work today that will look a little bit like this. We're going to go over it in whole group again in case you have any more questions. Otherwise, I will see you then. Bye.